pickleball.
It looks like lazy people's tennis, and I think that's what it is people don't want to run, but they want to do something.
It's ping pong without the table. Oh,
It looks like shitty ping pong. I like ping pong. I don't get pickleball.
Who came up with this shit? Are there stars in pickleball? Are there guys? Jim Sarney was pointing out some local person. I think a woman is like the number one pickleball player. And how come she's not getting more attention? Because the game sucks. Has that replaced shuffleboard in most of these like 5-star senior residences?
It looks like a senior game. It looks like you want to be active.
From Century Village, right here in Pembroke Pines, it's the National Senior Pickleball Championship. And today, Irving Schwartz is going to go out there. Irving's undefeated now in singles and doubles.
And Saul Bernstein.
Yeah. The B'nai B'rith is backing today's event. Never mind. I don't think we'll see a lot of old Jewish people at Century Village playing pickleball. Is there a demand in front of the Homeowners Association to put in some courts? Take out the shuffleboard? They have tennis courts there. My mother was always telling me, why don't you come here and play tennis? Because there's like a chalk outline of the last guy to play tennis on the court. Zakovich, I think was his name. Irving.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody, on this fine Tuesday. Great to be with you on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubitz. And, it's interesting. I've been going through a series of epiphanies and realizations of late, Lubie. And, you try to examine, hey, what did I do, right in life? What did I do wrong? I don't really consider, the wrong is pretty easy to pinpoint in my case because it comes under a broad general brush of being a fuck-up. And fueled by self-sabotage, degenerate gambler, the drugs, I would say, I don't know. It wasn't like I was abusive to women, but I probably did toy with the emotions of many women in my lifetime. I don't know. Have you done that too, Libby? Where, you're telling a woman you love her, and then that same afternoon you're in bed with a different woman.
No. I've never lied to women, but there have been some that wanted me to, and I was like, nah, I'm okay.
I became very reluctant to use the L word, only because it seemed to represent and be a benchmark for some sort of commitment, which, I don't know. There were different times. I mean, I've been married 3 times, so obviously that represents some form of commitment. But, I don't know, towards about the midway point of my second marriage, the commitment was not very strong. Let's put it that way. I don't know what she was doing, but I know what I was doing. And I probably should have left. But anyway, and it's interesting because you start thinking, okay, what kind of person am I? I mean, am I a decent human being? Was I good to people? Did I do the right thing? What does life mean? I mean, you start thinking about all of this shit as, and I'm approaching, it's now a week and a day away from my 72nd birthday, which you all right? You okay? Where, you're thinking, never mind a line of cocaine. I would just like to have direct access to an oxygen tank. That's what you need, It's your whole priorities change. But, and so I'm thinking about a lot of different things, and I'm going to make a bold admission here on the show. All right, Louie, are you ready?
Okay.
I realized this yesterday, and watching the College Baseball World Series, that when it comes to the Florida Gators, I am full of shit. I don't have a softer position about the Florida Gators. I stated this. I try to defend myself against this Gator acrimony, which, blossomed. And I would have to say that I capitalized on this to a large degree, Lubie, to the point where it became so legendary that I was mentioned on the Steve Spurrier show. As there was a guy named Gator Bill who used to call my shows all the time, and he seemed to sort of dig what I was doing, except for the fact that I was always trashing the Gators. And do we still have the farm animal sounds? Is that still in the repertoire?
I have this Steve from Humatilla. I'm actually going to play that in the next return.
Steve from Humatilla. You know what? If you could resurrect a little Steve from Humatilla, it would bolster my spirits immensely. Although I couldn't have been any more euphoric. Watching a college baseball blowout game, you would think would be of very little interest, that you would be seeking other sources of entertainment by about the 4th inning, no? Now, college baseball games can take radical swings. I've been witness to that. I was doing those Canes baseball games for 3 years, and if you had Kenny Henderson on the mound, a former number 5 overall pick out of high school. What hillbilly high school did this guy go to that he was striking everybody out? He couldn't get out of the first inning when he was with the Canes. Milwaukee Brewers made him the number 5 overall pick in the baseball free agent draft one year. He decided instead to sign with the University of Miami, and we were discussing this on Defo on 5. I'm not sure what the parameters, the guidelines are now, because they've changed virtually in every sport, have they not? We know in basketball it's one and done. If a freshman's going to college, he's probably never going to sniff his sophomore year if he's one of these top recruits. The likelihood is it's a one-year stepping stone to dodge, find a way around the NBA age limit rule, which seems to be something that you would think even Judge Alito might sign off on, right? If he was taking a freebie trip, from the head of the NCAA. That he would just say, hey, you know what? I mean, you can't have this age restriction, NBA. Well, what the hell is that? If a guy's 16 and he can play, you put him in your league.
Yes.
They can make whatever rules they want. And it's, obviously something that I don't know. I mean, is it that beneficial for them to have or was that just a capitulation to the fact that the colleges have been essentially a minor league for these NFL and NBA franchises for years and years and years. Free minor league development, no?
100%.
Yeah. It's been a great system until now where, a kid actually has to decide if he wants to take a pay cut. What do you think these guys... I mean, we used to joke about that because it was under the table money, but now it's legitimate. I mean, it's out there. Is there going to eventually be a salary cap on name, image, and likeness?
There should be.
What do you think they were paying Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens to go to LSU? Number 1, number 2 pick in the Major League Baseball draft coming up.
Basketball's not even getting a ton of money yet, let alone baseball. Kids aren't getting big NIL money. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of advertising for.
This is LSU. As crooked an organization, I don't think the World Boxing Council is as crooked as the people that are running and pulling the strings at Louisiana State University. You were telling me this morning, Lubie, that they're on probation in every sport. I think even a women's water polo team is experiencing some hardships because of sanctions that were imposed over the next 20 years. I don't know. What did they have? They had like a transgender guy in there. They had a guy throwing a ball as hard as he can. Found some way to circumvent the rules. When you think of what SEC teams in general, is that a fair statement, or is that just a blanket indictment against a league that, in actuality, is a pillar of virtue? The SEC. What do you think? To say that all SEC teams have, been guilty of multiple and numerous atrocities when it comes to trying to be in compliance with any sort of regulation in acquiring talent. Anyway, so I said that I had softened my stance. Now I used to be an enemy of the Gator Nation. Mentioned on the Steve Spurrier show, this guy, Gator Bill, used to call in and go, have you heard about this guy, Jeff DeFlores, down there in South Florida? And he keeps saying that the Gators are a bunch of scumbags and this, which I wasn't, using that kind of disparaging terminology, was I? Lubie, I mean, I don't know. When you were a kid, were you listening to like old Defo shows by any chance? Did your father force you on your way to school to listen to sports talk radio? And we're sitting there going, a mere mention of the Gators immediately draws a cacophony of farm animal sounds.
The farm animal sound stuff that we did for years wasn't gentle.
No, it's persistent, But the Gator fans, for some reason, I mean, and maybe, I don't know, is there a small element of charm to whatever it is that we do that would even have your biggest detractors tune into the show and secretly devise some kind of enjoyment out of some of the other stuff that you did when you weren't talking about the Gators?
You would think. I would hope. Yeah, I mean.
And you had to take a stand on this, didn't you? I mean, you couldn't sit there and go, well, I really admire what the Florida Gators do, and then extol the virtues of Schnelly at the University of Miami. No way. You had to take a side. That was one of the, ingredients of sports talk that a lot of guys didn't get. Take a stand. Have a position. Don't sit there on the fence. Well, I think they're okay, but okay, so I decided to go all in on Gator hatred, right? There was enough on the table there to make me go ahead and take that position and feel good about it. It was the Gator flop, which I wasn't here for the Gator flop, but just the mere, suggestion that you would deliberately, allow a team to score so your guy could go set some college record, which now makes it bogus, right? Are you listening, Michael Strahan? Huh? I mean, you don't think Favre took a dive there? Come on. I mean, and to do what? And I like it now that the NBA actually, what would it be? I mean, they retracted in their record books some of the things that happened in terms of triple doubles when guys deliberately, set it up so that, that they, had a miss and threw the ball to themselves off the backboard and they counted it as a rebound. And that gets the guy a triple double when he's in the game up 30 with 12 seconds to go. And you're thinking, come on. I mean, don't do this for statistical, acknowledgement. That just it's ridiculous. So the Gator flop that was bad. My beef with the Gators really happened with those mamby-pamby excuses that they had for cutting the series off with the University of Miami, which we enjoyed immensely. It was great. Big games get people excited. This is a big event town. When and I don't think the buzz is the same by any stretch of the imagination, is it? Because the Canes have been OOP out of the picture for so many years in terms of title contention type of position. Florida State, they've been out of it for a while, but it wasn't that long ago, was it?
5 years. They had 5 bad years, and they've already, in some people's minds, turned it around. They won 10 games last year. They finished top 10. They're going to start top 10. They have a Heisman candidate quarterback. All the things that contenders do. Who knows what'll happen? But FSU's already at least made a preseason turnaround.
Ranked number 11 in the preseason polls.
That we haven't.
Neither the Gators or the Canes appear anywhere in the top 25, my friend. Neither
Gators in one poll supposedly is going to be 20, which I still don't know. I don't understand what they've done. Like the transfer quarterback they brought in sucked. So I don't know. We'll see. I liked Napier and Cristobal, so maybe they can turn it around. The problem is fan bases and programs are not patient. Look at what Norvell within 3 years had them winning 10 games, and he was supposedly on a hot seat last year. So like it moves very fast in athletics and especially big time college football.
No doubt. I mean, we've seen that. You're not going to see a guy last like 20 years if he has 3 bad ones in succession, even if he had a tremendous resume before that. All of a sudden, the conversation starts to turn to the idea that perhaps the game has passed the old man by, even if he's only 47 years old. But I mean, these were great weeks to do sports talk radio when the Hurricanes, and we didn't have as much in town to kind of lean on in terms of sports topics. The Heat were not even in existence in the early days of my coverage of Gator Hurricane football games. And, it was a vicious, diehard and an essential game, right? I mean, you feared this. I remember, a long time ago, and I often mention this guy. He's probably too obscure for most people, but, I got to be friendly with the great Danny Little Red Lopez. All right. And his manager was a real character. If you were going to depict the just typical characterization of what a boxing manager would be, with his hand, someone in the sewer, one hand, and the other hand seems to just reek of nobility. Okay. Where, he's doing everything that he possibly can to get his fighter the best shake. And, he's always extolling his virtues. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, he's going, can you believe this bum is getting knocked out in the gym? It's calling Eileen Eaton, who was running the show there at the Olympic Auditorium. One of the fabled. She should be in the Boxing Hall of Fame. I'm sure she is. Eileen Eaton. Check that out for me. Anyway, and he's saying, listen, I know my guy can't go 6 with this guy. So put him in there. It's going to be one last payday. And then he's telling his fighter, listen, this is a stepping stone to a world championship for you. Meanwhile, he's telling the guy to go step in a pile of shit. That kind of guy. But, you don't want to be disingenuous, do you, Lubie? It's not a good thing. And the guy I'm referencing is a guy named Benny Giorgino, perfect name for that type of character, and everybody always said he must have been in a couple of boxing movies because they filmed a lot of stuff. Any kind of boxing movies, like the Rocky scenes were shot at the Main Street Gym. A lot of those sparring sessions and all that. That was a Main Street Gym, and Giorgino was like one of the pillars there. I mean, he was widely respected, and it just always had something colorful to say, which was great. But I mean, you don't want to be like that to be disingenuous, do you? And I brought this story up because there's always the team that you don't want to face. And I remember Benny telling me, I hadn't heard of this fighter, Salvador Sanchez. And it turns out, I mean, regarded by many, possibly pound for pound, as the greatest ever. Salvador Sanchez. He was killed either in a motorcycle. I think it was a motorcycle accident. Some people say it was a car crash. But shortly after he had come into the level of, high level of prominence. I mean, if you thought Golovkin and Canelo were big time, and that everybody was all hyped up about these kind of matchups. Nobody wanted to face Salvador Sanchez even before he was well known. And Benny was telling me that eventually, unfortunately, Little Red was going to have to face this guy because there was no dodging him anymore. They were going to mandate that this took place, and he dodged him for 3 years. And that's kind of how you felt about, I mean, the level of competition when the Canes were playing the Gators and Florida State. Did you not? It was a big fucking deal every week. I mean, people would be talking about the game for years as soon as the schedule came. Oh, look at that. Can you believe that? September 19th. There we are. Going to be in Tallahassee. I already made my plans, Defo. How many tickets you need? And everybody wanted to be a part of it. And we had that going with the Gators. And, Florida State still maintains that rivalry. And it was important to the University of Miami, wasn't it? I mean, unfortunately, and I guess it's a fair characterization to say that it was far more important to Howard Schnellenberger and the University of Miami to have the Gators on the schedule, obviously, than it was for the Gators to potentially lose a game out of conference when they could have played William and Mary in the homecoming game. Here's a big season opener, right? And, we were pretty good about showing restraint with Mick Hubert, never to bring that kind of thing up, weren't we? In our Mick Hubert interviews, because I had too much respect for Hubert. And, you don't want to be an attack dog with a guy that you have respect for. Then, he can give you some insight. We know nothing about Gator football, do we, Lubie? I don't follow it. Do you?
Oh, no, I know what's going on there. Yeah, I follow.
You do?
Yeah, I hate them so much that I always keep tabs on them. I mean, I don't follow it like they do because they're able to convince themselves that they're better than they are. But
so you have an idea whether this is going to be a good or a bad year already about Gator football? I couldn't. If they won a national championship, it would surprise me no more than if they never won a game.
I mean,
that's how little I follow them at this point.
I mean, they shouldn't be good, but I don't know them enough to know if what they did in the transfer portal that might make them better quicker. I don't know. They're low on talent, and they went and got a transfer quarterback, the kid from Wisconsin that Wisconsin didn't want. Like, Wisconsin doesn't want a quarterback. Graham Mertz is not good. So that usually is how your team goes, is your quarterback position. And they lost some offensive linemen, so they're going to be young on the offensive line. And their defense was okay, but not great. And their skill was the running game. They have a solid stable of running backs. But okay, if you don't have a good offensive line, who gives a shit what your running backs are? They should be a 5-6 win team, but maybe they'll be better. I don't know. I don't follow them that closely to be positive. Right.
Well, in the post-Urban Meyer era, I felt myself, or at least I was telling myself, that I had a more favorable opinion about Gator football, Gator athletic programs. They'd done some decent things in basketball over the years. It seemed like their coaches weren't the same kind of arrogant slime balls that we had seen representing the Florida Gators. Spurrier turned out to be a very likable guy, did he not, later on in life as he became a member of the media, and he kind of softened that arrogant prick position that he used to take on everything. I mean, he was an early forerunner to the Nick Saban approach, wasn't he? But far more candid, and he was more inclined to say something that was at least a source of some humor. He did seem to show a little bit of a human side, especially. But he's enjoyable now. I mean, in his later years there, when he was coaching South Carolina, did you not look forward to Spurrier press conferences? They were great.
He didn't give a shit. He was like the anti-Saban. Like, he was saying all the stuff that we want a coach to say. Like, he was like, yeah, the class is okay. He was like, yeah, we should pay the kids. Yeah, these guys are douchebags. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah,
it was terrific. And you thought, wow, if he was like this all along, I might have turned off the juice on my Gator hatred years ago. Although it would have had to make an exception, at least a parenthetical, for the Urban Meyer era, which was wrought with disgust and just disgraceful behavior. Speaking of disingenuous, I mean, Urban Meyer, there's this sanctimonious figure. Oh my God, you know what? I talk directly to God before every play. Okay, Urban, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you're an asshole. What are you talking about? Of all the people.
Complete asshole. Unscrupulous doesn't even begin to describe it, does it? Anyway, I had convinced myself, and I was trying to, actually communicate to our faithful audience out there. And we always appreciate you people, and comments are great. And we really, however small our contingent of people may be at this point, still, it's it's kind of like the Panther crowds, right? Where they may not be huge in numbers, but very, very faithful to the cause, and we certainly appreciate that. But forgive me, my friends, for I have sinned. I feel like Jimmy fucking Swaggart here. I really do. Because I tried to convince myself and you that I had softened my stance on the Gators. And then there came last night. What a thing of beauty that was. My God. Every ping, I can still hear the ping of aluminum bats. And balls flying into the stands there. Left field, right field. There's another one in the gap. Here's Dylan Cruz. He's 4 for 5, ladies and gentlemen. And oh, look at that. That's going to the wall. And I did feel a little bit of empathy. I don't know. Are they going to revoke that kid's scholarship to sidearmer? You didn't see any of this game, huh?
No, not even 1 second.
This is how much I realize I despise the Gators. I watched every second of it. 10-4. I'm still watching. Jeff, you want to come upstairs, have something? No, I'm busy.
Like all in.
Yeah. Jeff, you want to walk it? No, I got this game. I got to watch it, man. I got to talk about it tomorrow. The usual excuse, right?
You don't even care about the
14-2, 16-2. Keep hitting the ball. 9th inning, score more runs. They did leave the sidearmer in there. I mean, it was like Kent DeCulvey, on his last outing when he was at a shot fighter completely. Poor kid, man. I mean, you do feel for it is a college kid.
Yes, they're kids. Yes,
that could scar you for life coming in there and getting shelled like that. It's kind of like when I got teed off on by those guys that were all 18 on the Massapequa Little League team. When I was, I think the parameters of the league were 13 and 14-year-olds, or 12 and 13, right? You could play Little League baseball up until 12. So what? If you were 13, could you still be eligible for Little League? I don't think so.
You weren't supposed to, though.
No. All right. So that was the differential. They had a league in between, like the senior league, which I think was for 15-year-olds. And then you had like American Legion ball. I'm not sure what the age guidelines were on that. Do you have to be 16 to play American Legion ball? Libby, you know anything about this shit? No. I used to, but I don't anymore. That was 50 years ago, Thief. Don't be too tough on yourself. So anyway, I remember I'm looking at these monsters, behemoths. I'm like 13 years old. And I was good for my level, but I knew I was in over my head, literally. I mean, these guys were all 6'5", and there's a little Defo throwing a ball there, a little fat Defo, and it's like the catcher actually came out, 13-year-old, right? Catcher comes out to the mound and had the audacity to say to me, "Could you throw the ball a little bit faster?" Me, I think I'm throwing hard.
I thought I was.
I'm throwing this thing as hard as I can, man. It was just teeing off. I was like Jack Nicklaus stepping up there on Amen Corner and saying, "You know what? I got this."
Your own catcher's yelling rag arm.
Yeah.
Like rag arm. It's like, dude, you're my catcher.
I called the coach out to the mound and asked to come out. And he actually told me, "Listen, if you can't beat these guys, we don't have anybody else. It's it, man. It's you or nothing. And, even if we're down 16-3, maybe we can rally and, get a little moral, victory out of this thing. And we'll all go have some ice cream at Jan's and call it a day. And that'll be that." I needed a couple of shots of tequila after that game. That was unbelievable. But, I felt for that kid. I mean, I've been in that position where you can't get anybody out. Or if you do, it's like a shot to the wall. You see the faces in the crowd. And there weren't many crowds of any significance, at that level of baseball. But, they were jammed in there last night. And where did they get all these rabid fans for baseball? Is it that big? I know LSU has a huge program. I did do a game in Baton Rouge, a couple of them. when I was calling Canes baseball, and they were always strong supporters. Had great support by college baseball standards of the day. Has the game just gained in popularity? I mean, there are a lot of people attending the average, college baseball game in the
I
SEC.
mean,
Maybe so. I don't know. What do you think?
a big program, yeah. There's nothing else going on, and people support their school. So I mean, Dick Hauser gets full. I'm sure the Gator Stadium gets full. And then when you get to this point, like it's the middle of the summer, there's nothing else going on. People want to support their program. I mean, it's the third biggest sport. I mean, people get into it 100%.
Well,
Especially,
I would say this. I watched a lot of the college baseball World Series. I got interested in it kind of at an early stage. I don't know. I ended up catching most of the LSU games, and they had to beat Wake Forest twice, the number one seed, to get to the point to play the Gators, and that messed with their pitching rotation. So they weren't even able to use this Paul Skeens in any of the three games against the Florida Gators. He did get the MVP of the World Series. I thought it could have easily gone to that Dylan Cruz kid who won the, what was that, Golden Spike Award, top player in college baseball. He's going to be the number one pick probably in the Major League Baseball draft, and he distinguished himself very well. I mean, he had 4 hits in the game last night, but everybody was teeing off on Gator pitching, and I was loving it. I have never been so happy. Even the dog was starting to bark on every base hit. Skippy and Holly were both like caught up in the spirit of watching the Gators get cremated in a sporting event of some significance. Not an easy title to win, a college baseball championship. USC used to do it as a matter of routine, but the sport and the game has definitely evolved. And I would say this, people used to ask, what level? Oh, even back, when Roger Clemens and Greg Swindell were 1-2 pitchers for Texas. Remember that year? You were probably not even born
I don't
yet, right?
remember, but I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would see some dynamos, in college baseball, but most of the rosters weren't laden with the kind of depth that you're seeing today. And then beyond that, the caliber of play, I think it used to be equated with what, double A ball, maybe? College baseball, high level college baseball. Would you say, is that a correlation that you've heard made often, that it was the equivalent of double A ball? Could it be because then they would start like the guy that they drafted number 1 overall? What would like the the jumbo shrimp? What are they? Are they single A, Lubie? The jumbo shrimp? Isn't that a Marlins farm
Yeah, it
club?
was. I don't know, single or double A. I don't think they're the triple A.
Yeah, anything. Is there still a Florida State League? I remember at one time I was such a baseball fan when I first moved here. I thought, oh, good, Florida State League baseball, but it turned out to be a bunch of garbage. I would say though the level of play, is it the equivalent of AAA now? No, it can't be. College baseball overall, still double A, a solid double A though. The level of play is and the number of players that every pitcher was bringing it at 90 plus. Even scrubs were coming in like the 8. How many guys can you have on your roster that can throw the ball 90 miles an hour? It's crazy. But they left this kid out there unmercifully. This O'Sullivan guy, he was getting absolutely annihilated, and they left him in there for like 3 innings. They were thrown in the towel in the game. Would you ever do that in a championship game, Louie? Should you ever just completely throw in the towel, even at say 10-2?
So the jumbo shrimp, to go back to the thing you already left, are triple A. They're the Marlins triple A affiliate.
Oh, AAA. Okay.
So I was very wrong on that.
Are the jumbo shrimp? Would they just absolutely dominate LSU if they were playing them? The jumbo shrimp. What do you think?
Probably. Yeah, I mean it's triple A.
And you might be seeing a Yuri Perez on the jumbo shrimp.
Yes,
right?
he was. He was.
Okay.
You would think, yes, he was there before here.
That's a high level. But this Paul Skeens guy, I don't know. How does he not step right? I thought this about your man Paul Wilson many years ago. Paul Wilson, a couple of years that he was on the Seminoles roster, I was doing games with Miami and Florida State, and it seemed like routinely Mike Martin would have Paul Wilson opening up in the 3-game series. And I'm watching this guy, and I'm saying, how could this guy not just go right to the pros and be a superstar? I hadn't seen anything quite like that along the, and you get a lot of decent college pitching, but he was far and away the best that I had seen, and didn't do much as a pro, did he, Paul Wilson?
No, he
was part of that Mets, dream rotation that they had of young guys with Pulsifer and Isringhausen.
Mm-hmm.
And of those 3, Wilson probably was the least distinguished. Is that a fair statement?
In the pros, yeah. I mean, between injuries and just he could never find his game. He was a total disaster in the pros.
Yeah.
He hung around long at all. He was horrendous.
Another illusion that was proliferated by the New York Mets that they were going to be great for years into the future. How damaging is it to the psyche to be a Met fan, Louis, unless you're resigned to failure? What do you think? I mean, the audacity of what's going on in New York right now as compared to, this is a great picture here of frustration they have on the back page of the New York Post. Worst half money can buy.
Jesus.
364 million. So essentially 182 million dollars to suck.
How
30 what are they? 35 and 42, something like that.
how much is that on their closure that got hurt in the goddamn?
Oh, Diaz.
Like,
I
were
think
they
they gave Diaz 20 million a year or something like
have they
that.
been?
I
I'm
forget
saying
what
like
big deal.
because I feel like they're getting shelled, so it wouldn't even matter. I'm just curious, like if he's healthy, would they have won a handful more games, and would that make it feel better?
You would have to think, sure, having Edwin Diaz, the guy was a lights out closer, and they are horrible in the field also. That came up. I mean, if you watch the lowlights of last night's loss, it's all a bunch of just absolutely bungled plays. And then they were showing Showalter and his reaction to a series of defensive blunders that have taken place. And the Mets are making little league plays.
Well, I didn't get that higher either, and I get it. They were trying to just get a calming influence, but it's like
He's a baseball man, Lubie. What are you talking
what
about?
is
He's a baseball man.
I mean, he hadn't coached for years.
What's he ever done, this guy? Nothing.
He was fine like years ago with the Rangers, and then
Is he the most overrated guy in a managerial position in all of sport? Buck
Some little
Showalter.
dude that was out of the game. Like, and I get it. The Marlins did it with McKeon and won a World Series. It's happened where guys come out of nowhere and haven't coached and they settle a roster. I didn't get that move at all. It didn't make any sense. And all it's done is look stupid ever since they made that fucking move.
All right. Well, anyway, so I wanted to make this bold admission. It took me 37 minutes to make it because I'm reluctant to go ahead and embrace this idea, but I'm full of shit. I still, I could not have enjoyed that Gator beating any more than I did. I don't care what sport it was. It could have been badminton. I could have been with Jim Sarney watching women's badminton semifinal action for the NCAA championship. Hey, look at that little birdie fly. If the Gators were well, no, I think Jim's a Gator fan. Did he go to university? Jim Sarney didn't go to University of Florida. He's a Boston guy.
College. He's a Northeast guy. He has no ties to the Gators, from what I know.
I thought I detected, and he was rooting for the Gators there. I think he was going to make Tommy T, the Cajun chef, Tom Tanazzini, Tom's Louisiana Kitchen. He was going to bet him like a bucket of crabs versus whatever it is that he was going to come up with, like a stack of knishes. No, Sarney's an Italian name. He's not a Jew.
He's Italian, yes.
Okay.
He's not Jewish. He
All right.
acts Jewishy at times, but he is not.
He does have some nebbishy, like
very nebbish.
tendencies. Yeah.
Very nebbish, but he is not Jewish. He's Northeast. There's a lot of Jews there. I'm sure he spent a lot of time around Jews. But
that's the first question you ask somebody when you meet them. Hey, have you spent a lot of time around the Jews?
Well, usually you can tell, actually. Put it this way. My in-laws and my wife hadn't, and so right away. You don't have to ask. Usually you can tell if someone knows the Yiddish terms or they don't.
Oh, they don't know like words like Meshuggah?
They've never heard those terms.
The Jewish people have a lot to contribute in terms of slang language. I believe it's some of the best slang language. I mean, even though we invented the word schmink, it definitely is a derivative of, Jewish vernacular and Jewish slang like schwitzing and, things like that. Schlepping, anything with an SCH, you have to say is good stuff. All right. So, I loved it. And it was 18-4 was the final there. LSU wins the College Baseball World Series. Had a dynamite road to do it. They did get drubbed, and that was interesting. What a reversal of form, huh? They lose 24-4 the previous day, come right back and win 18-4 in the following ball game. The Gator players were appropriately devastated. You do think, hey, would that scar you for life? If you pulled a Jackie Smith or a Buckner and you dropped like the winning touchdown pass in the end zone, you had a chance to win the Super Bowl. I mean, when you have your sports fantasies, Lubie, do you dream of success or failure? Appropriately, we should just dream of failure. Correct? But my sports fantasies never ended with me having one bonk off my forehead and fall harmlessly to the ground with the game on the line.
No, you think
It was always a beautiful catch right in there. Holy shit. Stephon Diggs couldn't have come up with that one. Unbelievable. All right, so is there acrimony between Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen? How concerned are you about that? Mike Lubie Lubitz? Not very?
No, I don't know. Supposedly there's a thing going on there. I never get that. Like, you're on the same team. I understand.
There was that incident last year. They were famous, brothers in arms, were they not? Yes. They were blood brothers. And then I guess it was that one drive they had in the Cincinnati playoff game. It was a 10-play drive. And remember, after they went to the sidelines, Diggs is like screaming, "You stupid motherfucker," at Josh Allen, who I think acquits himself as well as anybody that's in that kind of position. Don't you? I mean, it's hard not to root for Josh Allen because he comes across as such a decent human being. And humble and low key and always deferring to his teammates as being the reason for his success. So it was weird to see that, was it not? In that drive of 10 plays, I believe Diggs was targeted one time. How's that for my who is it? Greg Cosell type of research, huh?
Look at you.
I should be on the Gillette. What was the show called again?
NFL matchup.
Gillette NFL matchup. That was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, with Allie Sherman. Who even knew that was another one like Wayne Newton? Who even knew Allie Sherman was alive? Except when you finally got the new season of Gillette NFL matchup, and eventually what our guy Sal Paolantonio ended up hosting the thing.
Sal Paolo took over.
That's how we got him. He was going to be kind of a stiff on an interview, wasn't he? When he sat down with us, didn't you sense that? Well, this is not going to be anything special. And we're looking for special when we're talking to people. Well, we don't want to hear the guy go, well, you know what? Cincinnati's got the running game. And if they can get that running game going, well, that'll balance things out. And then Joe Burrow can be especially dangerous. Oh, whoa. Thank you so much. I'm enlightened now. I can watch the game. Do we need this kind of conversation? No. And we were going to get that from Sal Paolantonio until we asked him about what it was like to sit in the same seat as Allie Sherman. And was Sherman ever on the show with him, or did he replace Allie Sherman somehow?
When I started watching it, it was always Sal Paolo. I never saw Allie Sherman there, period. So I don't know. I was waiting for my time.
I think Alex Webster was running the ball when I went to my first sporting event with my Uncle Joey. First professional sporting event, which was a New York Giants game. I don't remember who they were playing, but what I do remember, and I've mentioned this, I probably, I don't know, it might have gotten lost, with the settling of my mother's estate, if you will. But I had a Goodbye Alley banner that I bought at the game there for $1. I had $1 to spend, and I spent it on that. Can you imagine? Was that a forerunner of things to come, that you were going to be a snide, sarcastic, snickering little prick on a sports talk show? Disparaging a man who was the epitome of class and integrity, the great Allie Sherman, the late great Allie Sherman.
I grew up I don't know why I know that chant, but I know
because of NFL films. They had it up there. It was like watching Jerry Quarry get knocked out by everybody on ESPN Classics.
My dad grew up here. I don't know why I would know that, but I remember growing up. Goodbye, Allie. I don't know why.
Goodbye, Allie. Goodbye, Allie. We hate to see you go. Nicest man you could run into, huh? Like Yogi Berra might not have been any more approachable than Allie Sherman was. We're sitting there just,
Do you know who Allie Sherman was?
Bullying him into trying to retire him. He did eventually get fired, but I don't know. Would the Goodbye Alley banner, the original Goodbye Alley banner, be worth anything? I mean, the fact that it held up over 50-some-odd years is incredible, isn't it? Because let's face it, I don't know that it was made of the most quality of materials, you would think. Seeing as I bought it off some Korean kid who was selling vuvuzelas outside the stadium. Those were the days, Libby. Those were the days. Now, that how temperate is that compared to what happens in terms of attacks on athletes who don't succeed?
Oh, God, yeah,
coaches who have their share of failures. I mean, you're on Twitter. I'm afraid to go on there. Absolutely afraid to go on.
Very vicious, violent place. 100%. It's a scary place, Twitter.
Cancel culture. It's crazy. There was a guy. I was thinking about this on a walk of life yesterday. There was a guy, in the cancel culture, and we're going to get involved with this thing called No Filter. We hope in the next week or so, if we ever get around to it. And I understand. It's funny. Sometimes you're too busy working to actually make it. And make something happen, right? Because you're saying, "Oh, okay, I should be filthy rich today," and you're just too busy doing your thing, right? Another day passes, another week passes, and that's the way it goes. But this no filter was an evolution from an idea that stemmed when the people that got canceled cultured were looking for a platform to perform on. Tony Bruno is one of the guys. Jeremy Roenick. What did Roenick say about hockey that got him in a jackpot? I don't know.
I have no idea.
And I'm thinking Hank Haney must have said something that got him canceled out of any kind of association with the PGA. No, or is he still very much entrenched in that? And I'm just making
But
this
my
up.
problem is my only problem is they're all canceled one way. So that's my only issue. It's not they're so liberal and open minded that they're canceled. That's my only issue.
Well, they all became MAGA Republicans?
There's just a trend in those that have been canceled and want to resurrect.
Because they become embittered and they feel like the world is on a witch hunt against them, like a certain, presidential candidate. What would have you believe that even though he's on tape waving these documents, go, look at this, top secret. They say I started a war in Iran. Here's all the information that you need about that war right here. Take a look. And the people are like, you sure you should be showing this to us, Donald? That was great, man. Did you catch that tape yesterday?
No.
Finally was, came out, the full version of that. That was absolutely fantastic. But I was thinking about this guy got, I think, fired from his job. Either that or he had the job. And before he was able to, actually take the position, they took it away from him, like $150,000 a year job by doing some kind of supervisory deal with the New York City schools department. And you know why he got fired? Because he addressed the board, which was all made of female members, as ladies. Now, back in the day, and I still say that. I mean, I'll see two women at a bus stop as I'm doing my walk of life. Go, hey, ladies, how you doing? Isn't that an endearing kind of flattering term to consider a woman a lady? How could that all of a sudden be so disparaging, so demeaning, and so thoughtless that this guy loses like $150,000 a year job that he just got because he addressed them as ladies at the top of an email? Is that crazy?
Is it only women or is it men? Like, I don't understand. Why would that?
I guess he was dealing with, at least multiple, more than two women.
No, people are sensitive and we talk about pronouns and that's fine. I'm not going to be the one to tell someone what to call themselves. But
you wouldn't approach, women at a bar and say, how are you lovely ladies tonight?
I'm weird about it now. I actually am really weird about how because people are really fucking. And
how can people be offended by that? What am I missing here? Tell me, fill me in, Lubie.
You're older. Like I don't understand it, and I think look, they're wrong. Don't kill me. As long as I'm trying to learn, like it's like don't be mad at me. Oh God, this guy's a guy. But I'm not going to be Scott. I'm not going to get angry.
I love when you go at war with someone on the chat.
Like, I think it's dumb to get angry at people for wanting something. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're a white guy that's gotten it your way your whole life. Don't try to assume what other people have gone through and don't tell other fucking people how to live their goddamn life. That bothers me. Now you aren't doing that. You are confused.
You're getting upset about this here.
You are because I hate that. I hate the dominant group telling others, go fuck yourself. No, you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to tell others what to think or say. Now you aren't doing that. You're confused. You've grown up a certain way. And life's changed really fast. The last 5 to 10 years has changed really fast. You're not mad about it.
When did ladies become a derogatory term, a disparaging reference to a woman? Like a lady to me, it implied class. Lady so and so.
What it is not everyone is what you think they are.
Here's Lady Magdalene. All right, I mean,
people don't like being people don't like being assumed to be something, so they want you to let them tell you. So if say it. What bothers me is going the other way and getting mad at someone. Well, don't do that. If you want people to address you a certain way, fine, say it. Let them know you're mad. That's not fair either. That's the problem. Is everyone wants to get mad both ways, and I don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
Now,
in the end, it really doesn't amount to much, right? All of this stuff, all of this, anxiety, and it really does.
Someone's trying to be classy. Someone's trying. Maybe they're old school. Don't have your sensibilities. Okay, so school them, educate them. That's the problem, is by just shutting them up, you get the Scotts of the world. By just shutting them up and telling them that you're a racist. No, you're a sexist. No, they're not a sexist. This is what they were taught. This is the world they were in. Educate them. Don't go the other way, because then you just piss off all the old white men. See, there's nothing we can do. Nothing we can do. Just be hateful and racist and misogynistic because we can't get it right anyways. So I'd rather people educate them. So I actually don't do that. I don't assume anyone's fucking pronouns anymore because people are very sensitive.
Every letter is going to be addressed, an email, I guess. People don't write letters anymore, to whom it may concern. Which, I would also find offensive if you didn't even know who the hell you were talking to. Come on. It's crazy.
I don't know.
It was like the Mrs. and Ms. and all of that stuff. I mean, please, it's difficult enough. Just, I'm talking to you. Come on. Just acknowledge that, and let's get on with it from there. All right, we have a lot more to talk about here on the program. That was brilliant, though, that rant, Mike Lubie. I love when you get excited. As I did last night. I can still hear the beautiful ping of that. Who was that guy? Jobert at the end of the game there, and LSU is already up like 15-4. And he hits a shot. This guy had kind of an up and down series, but a perfect swing from a left-hander of a hanging breaking ball thrown by a right-handed pitcher. Oh, my God, the thing is still rolling around somewhere in the streets of Omaha. Might have even tripped up Terrence Crawford on his way to the gym. That's how hard this ball was hit. And I'm thinking, yeah, pour it on those Gators. Sorry, you Gators got skunked last night. And that was for Bill, the Gator fan, right? Gator Bill, he called himself. Called Spurrier on the air, right? I'm watching at the time. There weren't that many options, and had what we called Moonshine Network, Sunshine Network, with whom I worked, for many, many years. I had a variety of programs on there and different live events that I had done, and so I would often tune in because I was always amazed at how cheap the set was on the Spurrier show. Did you ever watch that? The Steve Spurrier? I mean, coaches' shows have, obviously amplified their and illuminated their backgrounds, immensely over the years. I don't even know. Do we even see coaches' shows anymore? Do they have? Okay, it's time now for the Mario Cristobal show. Does he have a show on TV, Mario Cristobal? No,
sure. Every coach has a coach's show.
Wasn't that one of the big ways that they made money in the past? Where they would have a salary of $100,000, but they were making $1 million on the coach's show, which is brought to you by some of our biggest boosters. Do we see those on TV though? At one time when they didn't have that much programming, Sunshine Network was airing like every coach's show. They'd be airing the Jay Wright show out of Philadelphia. Like, what do I give a shit about this for? No, it would just be one after another. But back in the day, the Spurrier show had one of and the Mad Dog was quick to point this out. Jim Mandich. I remember kind of got this from him. I started noticing it myself. It's like, that is the cheesiest set I've ever seen. I was doing a show for Hooters a long time ago in a very remote cable television studio. And our set was better than that. And it was like one locker room with a helmet on it. But, it was crazy. And you would have, Mick Hubert sitting there. Well, Coach, okay, we got a call from Steve from Umatilla. And then if you can dig that up later, I think that would help, enlighten people as to how I arose with this whole Gator stance of mine. But a complete phony. I'm full of shit. I loved every minute of it last night. It was great. All right, the Marlins are in Boston tonight. We'll get into that a little bit. I don't know. Are people into this story yet, Lubie? What do you think? Crowds were bigger. Arise hitting 399 end of June. I mean, that's not a small story. He's 70 points ahead of.
Supposedly had told his team, I'm going to hit a home run this next at bat, and then pounded one.
Who did that now?
Arise. Before this last home run, he told them, like, hey, guys, I'm going to hit one here. And he came up and crushed the shit out of one.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And he's only got like 3 home runs. He doesn't do it that often. I mean, he's just a laser line drive of virtually every at bat. A lot of fun to watch. Very entertaining player. and seems to have a good grip on who he is and what he's doing. Did you realize this, Lubie? I didn't realize this until I was watching a little of that Atlanta Minnesota game last night. And on the crawl on Major League Baseball Network, which was televising the game, they showed the National League leaders, and I hadn't looked at this. I normally glance at this sort of stuff with some kind of regularity, but either my bowel movements are taking less time, or I just haven't been paying attention. There are only 4 guys, including Luis Ariz, who's hitting .399 going into tonight's ball game. Only 4 guys in the National League hitting above 300.
Oh yeah, because I looked at it last week for the entire majors, and there's like 10 to 12 total. 10 to 12 total in all of base hitting above 300.
4 guys in the National League, Libby. Is it still true that the National League is more of a pitcher's league?
I guess.
I don't know. I mean, with the DH in both leagues now, is that still true? It did seem like you always felt like the better pitching was in the National League. Is that true, or do we have some American League fans that want to dispute that?
There was pitching in these leagues. I mean, Randy Johnson was an American League pitcher who was great for years, and so was Pedro. It was the
Sudden Sam McDowell was my guy.
The run output was way greater in the American League, and like ball, old school contact.
Well, he's going to go up there and try and lay one down. It's like, whoa, that's exciting. Let's see if he can do that.
Like
can
the ERA,
stick a bat out and bunt the ball.
If you had a 4 ERA in the American League, it was like the equivalent of a 3 in the National.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still had good hitters in both leagues and good pitchers in both leagues.
Catfish Hunter, wearing his earned run averages a little bit on the high side there. I know.
The AL because of the DH.
Kenny McLean, I mean, he was giving up a lot of runs, even though he won 30 ball games. So you could do that in the American League. All right, we're going to come back with more. Listen to us. We're like the Alliance Sports Bureau. Lubie's favorite story, of course, is NBA off-season news, anything related to that. There was a trade of some significance. I like this guy. He kind of tailed off last year with the Atlanta Hawks, John Collins. And,
I liked him a couple years ago.
He gets traded 2 years ago. He was like 21-10.
Yes.
And it was a really, I mean, it was an impressive 21-10, was it not? It was like a 21-10 that you thought he was being suppressed by his team to only come up with those numbers. I mean, he was doing it, in very economical fashion, coming up with 21 points, 10 boards a game. And, it showed signs of possibly having the ability to be a big star in a game. Didn't the Heat covet his services at one time? Wasn't that one of those names that you heard circulating? We'd really be good if we got John Collins. But he gets traded to Utah for like a sack of donuts, man. Rudy Gay, who I think is he's like 70 years old, and he's pretty much finished. And a future second-round pick. My God. That's for John Collins, whose shooting percentage slumped. And then the story, and you say this is not true. We'll get into this a little bit, right after this first break here, which we're way overdue on. What haven't we, touched on here so far in this first hour? I don't know. But it's the story is that Damian Lillard now at Destination South Beach, Libby. And you say no way. So we'll get back into that in just a sec here on the show. The Defo Show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox later on at 12 o'clock. It's going to be at its regular time. I know we had been touting it as a 12:30 post time on Let's Eat South Florida. Dusty May was a late scratch. Dusty May was going to be a special guest at Talia's Tuscan Kitchen, which I recommend wholeheartedly. You people in Boca, I don't know how far south they deliver, but they do deliver. On top of everything,
they seem to deliver everywhere. They seem to go all the way Miami.
And I'm talking big-time deliveries, like catering, huge events.
Catering.
Yep. That's really their main impetus there. And wow, if you were getting catered food of this caliber and it was not costing you, a fortune, I mean, it's not like you're paying carbone prices for this shit, you would be more than happy. I mean, you would embrace this every time. So we were looking forward to being up there, but it's not going to happen. So we'll have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. And I don't know what Mayo can do. It's best if he stays away from food when he's home. What do you think, Louie, for the show, for the overall sort of production value of the program? If he could shovel a whole loaf of bimini bread into his mouth, that would be an accomplishment, no? When we're at Aruba on Thursday? What do you think? Should he even
I
attempt
don't
it?
know.
That would
I'd
be a
rather
very
him.
difficult thing. I don't even know that you could begin to get like even
I
the
don't know
end.
the Heimlich, and I haven't done NPR in actual real life. I've done the courses. My fear is one of these days he's shut something, and the three of us we're gonna look at each other with the owner or the chef and go, "What the fuck do we do?" So I'd him, him dial back, shoving
You
tons
could
of
have
food.
Heimlich himself there if he was alive, and you wouldn't be safe with what Mayo's been doing on those remotes.
That's my fear. Is have to leap into
Hey,
action.
Doc, are you available? Okay, we're going out Thursday to Aruba. Right? You're accompanied by Heimlich. All right, we're getting out of here for a minute. We'll come back. We'll redeem ourselves in the next hour of the program. I promise everybody.
That's you.
A lot of heated stuff going back and forth. Lubie and Scott on the chat line got very excited about that. And then Lubie went off on this racism tangent. And all of a sudden, behind you, instead of basketball on the on-air sign, there's a picture of George Floyd. We'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
Misogynist, not racist.
It's 8:01.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Steven, go ahead.
It's great to talk to you, Mick. And hey, Coach, I can't wait 35 years, but I'm going to be missing a dad. I lost my dad, but he was a 25-year. It's going to be bittersweet for me to walk in there Saturday night, but we lost a lot of Gators this year, but I know they're looking down there. Watch you. Looking forward to seeing these Gators Saturday night, Coach. You gonna how many times you gonna give them a Jeff Dibs down here from Lake County? And best of luck and go Gators, man!
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs. Thanks. Now on the Defo Show.
That's pure comedy, Lubie. I mean, how could you not take a piece of material like that and make something out of it? It's crazy, and I think enhanced with the background farm animal noises. You don't know how when I first started doing that, I used to piss the Gator fans off because there were wide open telephone calls, and it seemed like, I mean, even though the University of Miami was starting to develop and would win that spectacular Cinderella-like national championship with Schnelly after the '83 season, crowned 84 Orange Bowl there with the big victory over Nebraska. Every time, I mean, a single, chicken or a hen crowing, rooster crowing, cow mooing came on, as a reaction to a Gator fan statement. Vitriol, you talk about vitriol. Thank God that there were less means of communication back then, because a guy would have to wait in line to get on the air. DeForest, you're a fucking stinking scumbag. You'd have to hit the dump button, and that started a cycle of stuff that the radio station. Can we take calls again, huh? because I'm out of things to say. It was great. And the situation would just continually exacerbate itself with every succeeding telephone call. And then you get 4 or 5 people that despise the Gators calling in, and naturally they were siding with you, and you would give them all the time that you could possibly give them on the air. The guy would be completely out of material, and you're still, okay, Joe, what else you got for us? That's great. But for me, it was a suspension in that series with the University of Miami and the mamby-pamby excuses that came along with it about the difficulty of the SEC schedule. Although, is it possible, Lubie, that years later there's some validity to that argument that, listen, we just can't afford it because let's not forget, one loss would knock you out of the championship hunt back in the day. One
Back
loss.
in the day.
Yeah, I mean, when they were voting on this shit, are you kidding me? You would fall out of the top 10 after losing on opening day in, say, a Florida matchup, and that was that. Although, didn't Miami win that championship after losing to Florida, getting trounced in the opening game of the season? Was that not the case?
I think so.
In that particular year, they lost like 31-0. I mean, it was an embarrassment at the OB, I want to say. The Gators just pushed their face right into the turf. And then Miami would subsequently, I guess, run the table, including that win over Nebraska to win the national championship. Does that even sound remotely in line with what actually happened? Yeah,
It's also like what you and Segredo have said through the years. I mean, I wasn't a lot. I was like 2, so I remember it. But it sounds like what has happened and what did happen.
Okay, all right. Well, if it didn't happen that way, it sounds good anyway, right? I do remember. I mean, I want to say that they got absolutely trounced by the Gators in their opening game, and then went on to win the national championship. At least one of those. How many do they have? 5 altogether, the Hurricanes? I've lost track. 5. Okay, very good. And those all came a while ago, and it doesn't look like there's one on the horizon since. We were looking at the Marlins, an acid test, litmus test this week, huh? 3 games in Boston tonight, tomorrow, and is it a 3-game series? I want to say yes to that. And then, on the road for 3 more in Atlanta, where Atlanta has been winning every night. And the crowds there are really getting into it. Winning definitely begats some kind of town type of spirit that escalates to new levels. And the Braves, remember when the Braves, they couldn't draw flies. I remember going to a Braves game years and years ago. It was that time that my producer and I, at the time, a guy named Scotty Mack, who you met, Lubie, strange cat, but a nice guy. And we were asked to go and participate in the Budget Gourmet Driving School, a NASCAR driving school in Atlanta, Georgia. So we had really no interest in doing that, but we were getting paid a few bucks to do it, and we were on some kind of long-term endorsement deal. And so we went. And that was the time that they told us to rent like the cheapest car that we could get at the airport. And we rented a Geo Prism. And then, which essentially, I mean, had less power, than a golf cart. So, time that we pull up onto the grounds there. I mean, the Atlanta Motor Speedway was not open at the time, but they did have this sort of NASCAR camp going, the Budget Gourmet Driving School. And, the average schmink could go there and pay whatever the fee was and get all kinds of, lessons as to how to drive these cars and how it operates and the pits and all that. It was interesting. I would have to say, if you were a car fan, if you were a NASCAR fan and you had the bread to do it, it would have been worth it. It would have been something you would have been excited about. Me, I had no desire because my fear is always in any kind of thing like that, pulling a hamstring as you're getting in and out of the car because the doors don't open. Like the first thing I want to say to one of the pit bosses is, can you open the fucking door in this thing? I want to just get in and sit down. The seats are already
Not
comfortable. The clutch is like a raw, barren thing. I don't know why they have to make these cars like that. Seems to me you could buy some souped-up vehicle now that would go just as fast. No. But anyway, but we end up driving up to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and there's a tunnel to go in, and we know this thing is taking place on the infield. So we're thinking, okay, this must be the way in. And I don't know if you're familiar with the configuration there. Atlanta Motor Speedway has the steepest banks turns. Literally like the Himalayas. The turns are at almost a 90-degree angle to the actual straightaway on the track. I'm not sure if they've reconfigured it since, and whether or not that was something that enhanced or diminished the danger factor. Were there a lot of crashes there, Atlanta Motor Speedway back in the day? I mean,
No
this
idea.
is circa over 30 years ago. So we're driving this Geo Prism, and we're out on the track thinking, okay, well, we'll follow this and just roll into the infield there. And then all of a sudden we hear, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." Like, what's going on here?
Oh,
And we're on the turn embankment with this Geo Prism, and cars are on the track. They actually are having a session there. They're blowing by us at 150 miles an hour, and this thing won't even make it up the embankment. We're chugging along there. Honestly, Lubie, it's as close to death as I think I've ever come. I've been in some car crashes. I've been in other stuff. As close to death as I've ever come. They're whizzing by us right and left. We're in a Geo fucking Prism. Think about this.
Can't even
That's
make it
why it
around
was
the
so
track.
relatable. This submersive thing that was taking place because I experienced that only in a different fashion. Now we weren't underwater, but I mean we were in deep trouble. So finally, we made it off the track there. The car actually, I think, started rolling backwards towards the traffic that was coming our way. And we got to the infield, and we participated one day in the thing, and that was it. I had had enough. Scary as shit, man. I mean, they make you drive like right next to the wall. That's the whole thing. Their whole, gist of their lesson is that you have to find the right line to drive in. That's the whole. Have you ever driven a NASCAR at any one of these events where you're,
No.
forced to be like a celebrity daredevil? No.
I always wanted to do it, but never have done it.
I think I've done it a couple of times. I did that one, and then there used to be what was Roger NASCAR. Roger was a big fan of this. There was like a stock car racing place in Hialeah. Was it
Okay.
a tropical park? I'm not sure.
No idea.
And we drove in that. It became more like demolition derby for me. I thought I was at the West Islip Speedway, just ready to crash a car. You remember the show Rick and Suds? Were you around when Rick and Suds had a show?
Yes. I was alive. I didn't really listen to the show, but I knew of them well.
Suds was very beloved. Rick was a dickhead. I can say that now. I mean, I hope he's still alive and thriving and doing well. But he was a real jerk off, very much full of himself. And he thought he was this big time, NASCAR stock car guy. And so, we're in this stupid event here. All you want to do is get out of the car in one piece. And he's, driving like he's Ben-Hur. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with you, man? This is like a bullshit radio promotion. I don't feel like dying in this thing. But if you want to, go ramming speed, here we go. And the next thing you know, you're in an all-out bloodbath with like some other radio host. It was crazy. Why do people get so competitive, Louie? That was like you when you were getting choked out by Jeff Monson, the UFC guy that nearly took your life.
He did. I blacked out 100%.
Wow. Oh, unbelievable. Anyway.
Something in you just takes over. You forget about being realistic.
Gist of the story was, the Braves had been like one of the worst teams in baseball. We're in Atlanta. And Scotty Mack and I decided, and we've done a bunch of things. We used to try. I mean, this is how diligent we were about the job that we figured since we were there, let's go to like Georgia Tech and see if we can get some interviews. And I remember Bobby Cremins. Remember Bobby Cremins?
Obviously.
High stature, coach. Yes. And he couldn't have been any more gracious. Those basketball coaches, that's where I first, got inclined to. Well, I mean, I had other experiences with college basketball coaches, but they couldn't be any more amenable to just having you walk into their office and sit down and shoot the shit. Right? I mean, and Cremins was like that. He was very gracious, much like Bobby Bowden was when we went to Florida State and tried to grab some interviews when we were covering Florida State, Miami baseball. So we go to a Braves game, and the Braves had just acquired that season Sid Bream, which was supposed to be like something that might have given him a little bit of a shot. And I had a friend that used to do radio shows with me, and he said, watch out for the Braves this year. They had been in last place the previous season, and they went from, of course, worst to first. But, I mean, you could walk in, at game time and buy a ticket for like $1 to Braves games back then. Not the case anymore, I would imagine, Louis.
I
They're
don't
they're
think so.
really in behind it, but they win every night. How great is that when your team wins every night? It's awesome, and we'll see. We'll see this week. Now we've been trying to analyze, and you try to contact any number of baseball analysts to be on today's show, Louis, and we weren't able to connect with anybody of the guys that are in our circle there. Tommy Hutton was unavailable. Geffner couldn't do it. Your man Craig Mish, he's dodging us, isn't he? Mish.
No, I'm actually happy for him. I'm proud of him. He has a lot going on, so he's busy,
Good.
Which is no, he's down to come on later. But you and I are.
We're not inclined to do that. Yeah. You want to stay after school and pursue this, Mr. DeForest? No, I don't think so. I got a game at 3:30. That's it. We're shooting craps in the gym. Yeah. So what is it? What is it that's wrong with Sandy Alcantara? Do we have any idea, Louis? Do we have any clue?
No one's given any theory.
What is wrong with this guy? What happened to him?
Like Sarny asked me last week, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't know.
I don't know that I've seen enough of him, in this decline that I would be able to give you a reasonably founded opinion. Because we watched him on opening day. He was great, wasn't he? Did he play go all the way like 9 innings on opening day? It was something ridiculous. Yeah,
he's only had one good start since. That's it.
Yeah, it's just that time. And what's he doing anyway? This wasn't a guy that you were accustomed to seeing getting shelled for 5 runs in an inning, as was the case last time. Now, he did go 7, I believe, in that game. So after giving up 5 runs in a second inning, he essentially tacked on 5 scoreless. Was that enough to convince you that he's figured it out? Because if this guy gets going, then maybe you have something, no? What do you think, Libby? Am I being overly optimistic?
No, look, you already have something. Well, that's what I don't get is he pitched great when he had no help. He rotation full of guys getting the job done. The lineup isn't what it needs to be, but it's better. The bullpen isn't all around great, but it's improved. They're much better. All the things you would think Alcantara would appreciate, and that's when he's struggling. Like that's my issue. That's what I don't get is he was great. Now, when he doesn't have to carry the team on his back, he's horrendous. Like I don't understand like what has happened, and I don't even hear theories. Like no one's even theorizing what could be wrong. Is he hurt? If he's hurt, then why is he pitching?
I tell you, I read that thing about the changeup. That was the big thing. I don't know that I could say okay, I'm in full agreement with that. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Is that possible? That all of a sudden his changeup blows, and everybody sees it coming? That he's telegraphing the pitch, changeup coming. Maybe, Carlos Beltran is banging on some garbage cans as if he was Tito Puente Jr., and they're signaling that the changeup is on its way. Don't even worry about the heater here. He's throwing a change. Looking at the standings here, though, how weird is this? The New York Mets, did they fall to 35-43 after last night's game? I believe they're either 35-42 or 35-43 at this point. New York Mets, $364 million in payroll.
35-43.
And they're losing in inept fashion. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that was happening to the Marlins last year when they were losing all of those one-run games. It's interesting to me because, look, how is this possible, Lubie, that we're having this season where going into the second half of the season, essentially the turning point is right around the corner here, like Friday. It's a 6-month season, and 3 of them will be gone, April, May, June. All off the boards. And you have a guy hitting .399 in a league where only 4 guys are hitting over 300. You have the Dontrell Willis of the franchise, the second coming of Dontrell here in his rookie season with Yuri Perez, who I don't know that the rest of the country has caught on to yet, and maybe they won't. So, I mean, what does this guy have to do before he's garnering more national attention and the spotlight? Or is that already happening and I'm just missing it?
Yeah, I was going to say in the baseball world, he seems to be getting attention. So it's not that he's not getting attention in the baseball world. He's we are sort of kept out of that. No one really gives a shit about baseball. But I presume in New York, Chicago, LA, they're talking about him because the guy's pitching out of his freaking mind. I mean, he had the one bad start over a month ago. Like ever since then,
it keeps getting better. Yes.
He's been out of his mind.
Complete command. 9 strikeouts and no walks, 2 starts back. 9 strikeouts and 1 walk last start. I mean, always with a low number of hits, going 6 innings, and just in annihilating fashion in terms of how he's dispensing of the opposition hitters. Been great. No, that's been a lot of fun to watch. So do we have a story here or not? That's the question. I think we go a long way towards finding out over the next 6 days, Mike Lubie. Here it is. Here it is right now. It's a tough part of the schedule there. Did you see what they're doing? They're on the road against the Rams. And then, I mean, it's kind of like looking at a Dolphin schedule. But I will say this, for a rare time, I am looking forward to being in front of a television set and watching this game tonight. Seeing how the Marlins fare against the Boston Red Sox. And I can't say I'll turn on Marlins baseball. I'm always curious about it. And I enjoy watching baseball. It's a good game sometimes to fall asleep to, isn't it? With the pitch clock now, though, they have put a little bit of life into it. It's moved it along a little more swiftly and better pace. And, there's some exciting elements there. Will they all come together in what would be the ultimate, panacea for success for any sports franchise, and that is winning, Lubie. Winning. Or are we relegated to the idea, like most, and resigned to the idea, like most Met fans are, that no matter what we do, no matter what stage of the season we're at, where you still have people doing phenomenal things, it's all going to end up being a pile of shit in the end. What do you think? We'll be back to the same questions next year. When are they going to have some money? When are they going to get some players?
Look, to me, that's the thing that will get me excited is if as an organization, and Sarni asked me who, I don't know who I want. I know about baseball to know who's available. I know Kim Bang is making the money.
I want Acuna, and let's see, who else can we get?
Yeah, there you go.
Give me Freddie Freeman, man.
I don't know who I want. I just know I want to see how they treat the line period. Because usually they either do nothing or they're a seller. If they themselves make moves, whatever the moves are, I don't even care if they end up being good or bad moves. I just want to see them be active. If they, as an organization, believe in themselves enough to make moves.
Well, what are we giving up? We're giving up prospects to get it like
well, they have a lot of pitching. Like at some point, Mayer is going to come back, right? And at some point, he's going to be a part of the rotation long term. So you can give up Mayer or give up some of these guys that have showed signs of life, but you don't need. Like they need to get a batter or two. They just do. So they believe in themselves enough to be a buyer. If they believe in themselves enough to be a buyer,
is there a consistent power bat out there though that you can acquire?
There probably isn't. So I'm asking them to do more than they can. I don't really care. At this point, I don't care. The Panthers made a move out of their ass. No one thought that they were going to get rid of Huberdeau. So I'm not asking for them to go and get a goddamn Kachuk. Show me that you're committed to winning this year, not the future, not this mythical time.
So you're looking for like a Darren Dalton type of move, where
I don't even.
The illusion was that was a move that solidified the run to a pennant.
Look,
but in reality, it was just kind of a cosmetic part of it.
But look, when you look back at it, people like you point out, look at his numbers; they suck. At the time, it showed a lot of money over the last 2 years. They have a good record now. They to win it, quote unquote. Right. I want to do that.
When's the trade deadline? I mean, what are we looking at here? After the All-Star game? Not sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be sooner than we're near the halfway point.
You're thinking somewhere around now. No, a trade deadline would make sense. All right, well, we'll see on that, and we'll find out tonight if Sandy Alcantara can straighten himself out. 2-6. 5.08 earned run average, 95 innings pitched, 78 strikeouts, a little bit low for him. 29 walks, not necessarily a good sign in terms of walks and hits per innings pitched. He's not that far off. I mean, it's higher than his usual career numbers for any individual season, but not 1st. That far off.
So we have a month. It's August 1st.
A month, okay.
So we'll see.
So they're still rolling August 1st. You're saying, Kim Eng, get off of your butt and make something happen. All right, we'll see if that turns out to be their position. I would be looking forward to this, although it doesn't seem like the New York Jets are. But would it not be the appropriate season? They really, Mike Westhoff kind of took over the Hard Knocks episode when the Jets were featured 10 years ago. the Jets were featured on Hard Knocks. Oddly, I believe it was 10 years ago was the last time the Jets made the postseason. Is that possibly true? Coincidental? That they made the postseason and then we're on Hard Knocks, and then it's been downhill ever since. So they are very reluctant about going and being the team participating in Hard Knocks, which the NFL may designate. And why wouldn't the NFL make that happen with all the attention the Jets are going to get with Aaron Rodgers this year?
I'm sorry, like look, and I get it. No one, it's gotten to the point to do it, but
if nobody wants to do it, should they foist it upon the teams in the league as part of their marketing strategy to go ahead and? I mean, does it generate interest? I would think yes. Would you agree with that, or is it passe now?
Yes.
I mean, I no longer have HBO, and that would be one show that I miss. But do I miss it so overwhelmingly so that I'm thinking, hey, let me ante up the bucks for HBO? No, because most of what I had HBO for was El Boxeo, my friends. And, they had Sopranos. I mean, I had some great series. But, at the stage where those shows were over with, what? That was it, right? They got rid of boxing. No more Jim Lampley there. And, I'm out. I don't mind it. But I do enjoy Hard Knocks. I love that kind of program. I didn't realize to what extent Hard Knocks was staged, though. Did you, Lubie?
Yeah, it's all bullshit. And I haven't watched it in years, but I know it does draw interest. Do pop? I know they do give national media outlets fodder, and that's the thing is, so no one wants to be on it. But they have guidelines. Look, if you've been to the playoffs, if you've been successful, you don't have to do it. Fine. So it gives team another reason to be successful. If you've sucked and haven't made the playoffs in 2-3 years, and you have some,
yeah, it's 2 years out of the postseason. You can't have a first-year coach. These are the things that would immediately eliminate you from consideration.
I think the NFL would do it like a Lions. There's Dan the man is work, but
Campbell would be a lot of fun to see.
People love watching
Hard Knocks. Sure,
people love watching it.
He would star in Hard Knocks. Why wouldn't they volunteer to do it? Why wouldn't Detroit just volunteer to do it?
Air your dirty laundry. Like no one wants that, but I don't.
Come on, that was great. Rex loved it. I mean, but he craved attention, and Mike Westhoff stole the show with his Joe Pesci rants. They were fantastic, and we didn't realize that Westhoff spoke like that. Did you? We had no idea.
Oh, no clue.
No clue whatsoever. All right, we're going to come back with more. So the Jets don't want any part of it. I think there are only a couple of other teams under consideration. The Saints might be one.
There's like four teams that fit the exact criteria. Because that's the thing. Usually, if you want to have a new coach, right? And if you have a consistent, the last 2-3 years, you made the playoffs. It's the NFL now. Like 7 or 8 teams make the fucking playoffs in each conference. So there's 4 teams that fit the criteria. I think they should force the Jets. You want to go get Aaron Rodgers. You want Aaron Rodgers to be the face of the franchise. Make him be on this fucking show. Let's see how he handles it.
Well, and I think he would handle it well because I believe that whatever those magic mushrooms were that he was taking during the off season, I want some. It's kind of like when we had Dennis Rodman on the show and he was so high and feeling so good that you thought, well, whatever that is, Dennis, I want some of that drug. But, I mean, have you ever, we were talking about this with Brett Tesser just yesterday. Have you ever seen anyone adapt to a situation that supposedly was going to be a very difficult fit for them? In the case of Rodgers coming off, what had to be a fairly quiet, surroundings there in Green Bay in terms of media attention and paparazzi and all. I mean, how many people in the paparazzi are hovering around Aaron Rodgers' garage in Green Bay? None. But this guy can't get into a taxi cab now without having photographers all over him, and he's adapted to it like he was one of the Kardashians. No, it's exceptional.
I mean, he's beloved. Easy to be out and about when you're beloved.
He's everywhere, though. He's places you would never anticipate. He's at the Tony Awards, for God's sake. I think he was even dancing in one of the musicals when they were doing their presentation on stage.
Be a narcissist. He gets standing ovations wherever he goes. Why wouldn't he be out and about? Again, it's easy to be out and about when you're not playing. I want to see him be out and about when they're 0-3 or they're 2-4. Out and about then. I feel like he won't be at the courtside at a Knicks game when they're 2-4. So that's why I want to see him on Hard Knocks, because as state is, they always find some negative moment for any, and thrust into that because he hates that shit.
That would be a great way to start things out, too. And this Robert Saleh is adamantly opposed to being a part of it. So now I'm hoping that the NFL goes ahead and makes that move. Are you not, Lubie? It might even be worth adding up the cash or maybe is there a way to pirate HBO? There has to be a way around this.
It'll be on YouTube.
It'll be on YouTube. Yeah, you can always watch it. Sure.
You'll be able to find clips. Like that's why I'm telling you, it'll still be worth it for people like you that watch Hard Knocks. Even people like me who don't, because I know it's a reality show and it's a load of garbage. I still pay attention to the clips that pop up on like TikTok. Like it'll be around, especially with Rodgers. Like I don't see how they can't. If the Jets fall in the criteria that you can push them, how do you not push the Jets?
Wasn't that one of the better episodes, though, of Hard Knocks? It was one of the great seasons when Westhoff was cursing at everybody. And, then Rex was staging fights and, urging people to go out there. Make sure you rough this guy up a little bit, and then we'll start swinging helmets. And you're thinking, this really goes on in the NFL? Come on, Rex Ryan. What kind of madman are you? How could the commissioner of the league there, Roger Goodell, sit back and go, oh, that's good. Let's encourage people to start hitting each other in the head with helmets in practice. Thanks, Rex. Should have been suspended from the league right there. Should he not? Why not just, openly admit to Bountygate there, Sean Payton? Oh, yeah. We were paying people. The worse they got hurt, the happier we were. Wanted to just take them right out of the game. End the kid's career. That's solid coaching. What would Tony say about that? Tony Segredo. Thinking, that these guys are pillars of integrity, these coaches. But it was exposed on Hard Knocks. And Rex was digging it, right? Let's go out there and make sure these guys start fighting today. You go ahead and bite him in the leg there. And then, we'll start an overall brawl. And that'll wake the team up. And we'll go get a snack. That was it. Rex was fat back then, too, wasn't he? He's a classic example of the fat coach that loses a lot of weight, and all of a sudden he can't coach anymore. He's out of the league. Although I do enjoy Rex as a commentator. Do you, Lubie? Or are you just not a Rex Ryan fan?
I think he's okay. I like that he tries to be. It feels like these guys say things on air, Mike Tannenbaum specifically.
Tannenbaum, we know is a charade. I mean, that's a joke.
They did do when Ryan will talk about things, and I'm like, dude, we watched you coach. You didn't do that. Why would you say something now that when we saw you coach the multiple times you do? And then, if I was the GM, thank God you're not the GM, because we saw what you did as the GM. Yeah, then I don't know what to do. So that Rex Ryan is fine because he's honest, but I don't know what to like. He sort of bullshits. That's my problem. Like he bullshits.
Great teeth, though. I mean, the only living being that ever had bigger teeth was Secretariat, I think. No, Rex Ryan? What do you think, Libby? All right, we're going to come back with more on that note. We do have some NBA stuff here. Luby's all excited, but you were denouncing this whole Damian Lillard theory to the Heat, even though I'm reading an article on the Throne this morning, and it says, South Beach next destination, ? One of my favorite headlines is the sports headline with the question mark in it. Question mark and a Mysterians. Is it happening? Probably not. South Beach for Lillard. I want to show you this again, Luby, and it's got a picture of Damian Lillard. See that? South Beach for Lillard. And I don't know. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Come on. Pat Riley pulls this off at the last minute, and now you're thinking, okay, good. We have, no excuses now. That's it. Because if you can keep a couple of those undesirables, what were they calling them? Undrafted? They weren't undesirables. I mean, they were desirable.
And the undrafteds.
They all had giant chips on their shoulder. What do we need? We need like 2 of the 4 of those guys. Do we not? You're talking about Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, and some combination of is Kevin Love coming back to this team? I don't know. Do you want him back on the roster, Kevin Love? Did he make enough of a difference for you? Lowry, you want to see going in that trade, right? As part of the ability to kind of offset the contracts. But would the Portland Trailblazers want to have Kyle Lowry on their team, though? And is there anybody else that would be interested in Kyle Lowry? What do you think? In other words, could they engage a third partner into some kind of deal here? And go ahead and get rid of Kyle Lowry at the same time? I mean, can you imagine what kind of coup would this be? If it was like Tyler Hero, you dump Kyle Lowry. I'm like a fan now. I'm coming up with a dream trade. The other day, I was looking at one of the transactions. Is this possibly true? That one of the future considerations was a 2030 conditional first round pick. You imagine it? I mean, how far into the future? You don't want any players. We can't add anybody to the roster for 10 years. What are we doing here? A 2030 draft pick was traded. Is that true? I mean, I thought there was a typo there. I mean, that's crazy. 2030. That's really thinking about the future of the franchise at that point. Well, we're solid all the way through to the next decade. All right, we'll see if the Heat make any kind of a move. Damian Lillard, you're saying no way, Jose. That encourages me to believe that maybe it's possible that it'll happen. And the Miami Heat, that would be an interesting and entertaining team to watch, no matter what pieces were left in the aftermath of making that deal. Because I believe at that point you would just need a handful of the typical solid, professional, supporting Heat players. Not going to be spectacular. Occasionally, they're going to go ahead and really give you a game that makes you think they're going to be a superstar. And like Caleb Martin did after the Boston series, might revert right back to the point where you're asking yourself, how come Highsmith isn't getting more playing time over this guy? It's crazy, right? But you can have a bunch of those guys on your team. I guess Highsmith would be the fourth guy, wouldn't he? If you're considering that type of player. And if you keep two of the four of those guys, you're in pretty good shape.
Well, he's a guy I think they're going to have no matter what. But he's low money and no one's asking. It's Strus, Robinson, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent.
Yeah.
Those are the four guys.
I forgot about Strus.
I'd like to get under contract. Strus and Vincent aren't under contract. So that's the problem is that you'd have to sign and trade them. I'd like to get rid of one of Robinson or Lowry because their contracts are insane. So I'd like to get rid of those. I'd like
preferably Lowry because Robinson still has some potential, no?
Yeah.
Although Lowry in spots in the postseason was very instrumental in what success the Heat were having. You could say that he was a total waste. I mean, he was up and down as usual, but in spots he was great.
But I'd like to use that as, okay, that's trade value that you can get rid of him. I don't want to bank on that to continue.
Bank being the key word. Yes,
yeah, exactly. And he's an expiring contract.
So he'll be desirable. I mean, the only way he'd be more desirable to another NBA franchise is if he was deceased. No? Because then you wouldn't have to think about playing him, and you get the expiring contract nonetheless. All right, we're coming back with more. All kinds of stuff going on here. And it was delightful last night. That was. I'm going to miss the College Baseball World Series, and I'm going to miss every minute. I should have taped that game last night. As long and arduous as it might have been to watch that thing being a blowout from the early stages. But I probably could go back and review that and relish every hit, every home run, every run crossing the plate by LSU, who I don't know. How do you feel about LSU? Are you indifferent about that? That it was LSU that beat the Gators? No?
Yeah, I hate the Gators. I don't like Bama over the Gators. Are you kidding?
I root for Alabama to lose at everything. Yes, that would be true. Notre Dame, another one. There are quite a few. Ohio State, I want to see them lose at everything. I'm sorry, O.J. McDuffie, Ohio State.
Oh, he's a Penn State guy.
Well, he's a Penn State guy, so he probably hates Ohio State too, but he's from Ohio.
Yeah, but he hates Ohio State.
Yeah, you're right.
Penn State guy.
That was a bad reference. Scratch O.J. McDuffie off the Ohio State bandwagon. Sure. Are there other people out there with me on this? These are teams that you can just universally consider to be despised. No, their fans, are annoying. The Gator fans when they were bragging all the time about how great they were in the Spurrier era. How disgusting was it to run into a Gator fan?
I mean, the urban era.
You would accidentally walk into a Gator bar, and it would be like you walked into accidentally walked into a brothel. And you would think, I didn't mean to come in here. What are you talking about? Brothel, I guess, would be, more inviting. Anyway, we have to run. We're coming back with more in a moment here. Yankees and Mets are both in trouble, huh? Aaron Judge out maybe for the season. Mets are horrible. And we were talking about it earlier, too. This Buck Showalter fascination. What did this guy ever do that made you think that he was such a brilliant manager, Lubie? Why does everybody say, oh, yeah, Buck Showalter? He knows everything. Was Earl Weaver not a far more accomplished manager than Buck Showalter? You never hear people talking about Earl Weaver in these kind of parameters. And this was a guy that was innovative. Showalter, what does he do? He just always looks like he's ready to croak. It's incredible. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:40.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by asleep to say we end the heartache and 1,000 natural shocks.
What could that have been about except
Gambling.
to hedge or not to hedge?
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Speaking of odds and ends, you do look a lot clearer there, Mike Lubie. That's good. Your complexion is cleared up from the fuzziness that was being exhibited on the screen there. Right? It's weird because it's out of sync. It's almost like I'm talking, and it seems like my thing is working properly, and then you're like doing a kung fu movie.
Trying, I don't know.
Where like you're watching the guy's lips move and saying, "No, I mean let's do a little bit of job of synchronizing that, huh?" Okay, odds and ends here. We always like to get into that, especially at the end of a rather, long discussion about some things that you would have thought we never would have brought to the table here today, including the root of my Gator acrimony, and the fact that I'm trying to cover up for the fact that I found myself last night. I could not have been more delighted in watching the Gators get crushed like a grape like that. Shohei Ohtani, how much of a cinch is he to win the MVP in the American League? What do you think, Libby? American League MVP.
I know
Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he would have to get hurt not to win it.
I know he's doing even more as a pitcher. As a hitter, he's usually top 5 in friggin' everything.
Okay.
This year, and as a pitcher, he's usually really good. But again, there's only so good you're going to be at both things. But I guess this year he's even better as a pitcher than in years past. The problem, and they're actually winning this year, right? Like, aren't they like at least hovering around the playoffs this year as opposed to
the Angels? I have to go back, and you know what? That's a team. Even though I used to cover a lot of their games, I pay very little attention to. And you're thinking with Ohtani and
they're
Mike
a half
Trout.
game out of the wild card. Right now, they're a half game out of the wild card.
Okay, so they're right there, knocking on the door.
In years past, they weren't. So that's
42, and they might have. Did they win last night? I have them at 42 and 37 in yesterday's standings. This is before last night's game. Did they play?
43 and 37. They're 43 and 37.
Okay, so they won last night.
They're 5 back of their division.
Same record. What? Do the Marlins have that same record? No, they're even better than that. Yeah, they're 11 over 500. Incredible. Does that go away tonight? That's my fear. Okay, so you're saying, the question is always this. Would you lay $700 to win $100 that Shohei Ohtani will be the American League MVP? Because if you're not, then and you can see anybody else in this category, I don't know what they would have to do. I mean, you not only have to eclipse what Ohtani is perceived to be as a hitter, but then you have to factor in the idea that he pitches as if he was Sandy fucking Koufax.
Yep.
Unbelievable. All right, Corey Seager is the second choice here. Okay, you know what you're getting on Seager? If somehow you would have to, this is like when we were betting money on Ben Roethlisberger to be MVP, and it was based on the idea that the Steelers had a soft remaining part of their schedule, and that if they ran the table and ended up, with the record that they would have had that happen, there would have been no way to deny Roethlisberger the MVP because he was the key guy there, even though he wasn't playing all that great.
Yeah.
And I think we were getting 12-1 on that, and that went up in smoke immediately as the Steelers went on an incredible and just dastardly losing streak the minute we proposed that to you to go out there and invest your money in. So we managed to find a way to separate you from your money. The very thing that we complain about with the Brent Musburger Bury America campaign, we're guilty of it ourselves. Okay, so can I talk anybody into doing this? Corey Seager at 35-1. Now you have other guys. I don't know exactly what their statistical basis is right now, or our foundation is right now. Wander Franco is 40-1. Bo Bichette 50-1. Marcus Simeon 50-1. Rosarina, right? Is he a candidate for MVP? Tampa Bay Rays, is he still lighting it up? He's 50-1. No, he's 60-1. 50-1. So you get the picture here. If you're going to go against Shohei Ohtani, who you would have to lay 700 to win 100 on, the lowest odds that you can get on anybody else. So you're now, not that we wish this on anybody, but you're hoping the team bus, breaks down and Ohtani gets jerked back a little bit, and all of a sudden he's on the IL for like 3 months. No? Oh, what a shame. He was having such a fine season. That would be the only way you win this bet, though. And then you would have to pick the right guy among all of these 35, 40, 50-1 shots. But imagine what a score you could make. Or should you be considered for the Baker Act, if you even go in this direction? What do you think? Is it that much of a cinch, Mike Lewis? What would you be inclined to do? Root for the demise of Shohei Ohtani so that you could win? No, nothing, drastic has to happen to the guy, right? Maybe a little elbow inflammation there keeps him out of the rotation for a couple of weeks. When he comes back, he's not so sharp.
Yeah.
Because he's pressing when he's pitching, he gets all concerned about that, so he stops hitting the ball. He goes on a ridiculous Giancarlo Stanton type of slump, which, by the way, I mean, they were thrilled in New York that Stanton got a single the other night. Literally, I mean, think about this. How ridiculous is this? Speaking of like $300 million, contracts. They were thrilled he got a single because in his 60 plate appearances or at-bats, official at-bats, after returning from injury, I believe he was hitting 109.
Oh, God.
With maybe one or two extra base hits. That was it. Can you imagine? I mean, how many years has this guy been doing this?
His whole career. He had 1 year where he was healthy and he was fucking insane with the Marlins. And
how great was it watching him that one season? It was phenomenal, wasn't it?
But this has been his whole career. And that's why I feel bad. Like Ethan was talking about the term injury prone, but some guys are. Look, it's the same thing with Aaron Judge. Like, he's been hurt his whole career. He had one healthy year. He won an MVP. He got a big contract. The next year, that's my problem with the Nuggets. Like, everyone who's trying to predict the Nuggets out, I can't. And it's not because of talent. Their roster's made perfectly. The three guys of their four have been hurt their entire careers. They had one good postseason. They won a title. But history dictates they're probably going to get hurt again. So that's my problem with the Nuggets. It was the same thing with the Lakers. Like, guys that get hurt a lot. Why? I don't know, but it is what it is. And that's Stanton and that's Judge. Their whole careers, they've been hurt. Once in a while,
Stanton, very fair to say about it. Yeah, Judge probably too. Yeah,
he's been hurt.
Or Jacob deGrom. I mean, did you not anticipate something like that was going to happen?
100%.
Where you go ahead and invest $185 million in a guy that has been injured virtually every year of his career.
Well, and that's Verlander the last decade. The last 10 years or so, like, he'll give you a one great year. Oh, well, the next year, he's probably going to. That's why the Astros said, okay, Bye
Yeah.
bye. We got the best out of you.
Nice, Justin. You know what? Take Kate Upton out of town with you while you're at it. As hot as she is. Incredible. All right. Sorry. So that was one proposition. You say what? I mean, what would you do there?
I'd Ohtani.
What's look up Corey Seager's stats if you have a chance there, Lubie, and we'll see if it's even in the ballpark here to consider. And I don't know what Wander Franco is doing. This is where it would be good to be Jim Sarney. Because if you were trying to figure out a degenerate angle around Shohei Ohtani. Now, the assumption is, though, you are literally betting that Ohtani somehow is going to get stopped in his tracks and not be able to complete this MVP season because otherwise, barring something really catastrophic in terms of his reversal of form, you're looking at a losing proposition right from the start here. You're betting into, a 1-9 shot and taking on the odds and saying to yourself, okay, if the jockey falls off, I win the race.
What is Seager doing well? Because he's not top 20 in any of the major stats. So what is he doing well that they have him so high?
Corey Seager. That's wild, huh?
He's a good player. I remember him from the Dodgers, but what is he doing in runs? He's not top 20. And I mean, this is all of the majors. This isn't just in his league, I guess. But so Ohtani's there. What is Seager do? What is he doing well? I don't understand why they have him as the second person there. I don't what is he doing well?
Did you say many times on the show that Jazz Chisholm was acquired in the Zach Gallen deal? Is that true?
He was the major impetus in the Zach Gallen deal. And it looked like the one deal that Marlins got right because both guys were stars in the making. Zach Gallen's possibly going to win a Cy Young, and Chisholm hasn't played half a season ever.
Yes, that's looking more like Fregosi for Nolan Ryan at this stage. Jazz Chisholm, Jim Sarney points out to us, is activated for tonight's game. Does he play? Do you throw him out there?
Like I told you.
You feel like he's an infusion of energy into the chemistry of the team, which seems to be very high right now. I mean, if you're watching, it seems like it's a very symmetric team in terms of where their collective heads are at, no? They support each other well. They seem to really enjoy playing together. You see the post-game celebrations appear to be genuine, do they not? And you're asking yourself, do you go ahead and put a guy? I mean, Chisholm, where did he finish up before he got hurt? He had staggered out of the gate this year. What was he coming on at all before the injury?
He was playing like ass. Him and
terrible, really. Still, okay. I didn't really. I mean, we weren't really focused that much on the Marlins then, for sure. But I don't remember exactly what he was doing before he got hurt.
He was playing a little better in the field. He was hitting a little better, but he wasn't the guy that should be on the cover of a video game. And then he got hurt, which is, again, he's one of these guys that's always freaking hurt. And that's now 3 or 4 years in a row. To me, it's not if, it's when. So I would play him because he will get hurt again. So until he gets hurt again, you might as well get whatever you can out of him. And I wouldn't put him in center. That was a stupid ass experiment. He was horrendous at it, and it did get in the way of his hitting. So
So where do you put him? Second base?
Idea.
You're going to move Luis Arias out of second base?
No, I have no idea what you do with him. But their outfield has sort of figured it out a little bit. It's playing a lot better in the field. It's hitting better. I don't know what you do with him. And maybe pinch hit him.
Was he a shortstop originally?
Yeah, he was short.
He was a shortstop.
Yeah,
okay. I mean, do you throw him back shortstop? Is that too much of a change? Or I don't know. I want to say, when he was a prospect, wasn't he a shortstop? He was not a second baseman. They converted him to that, didn't they?
Yeah, I think he was.
Are we making that up, Louis? I mean, or is that true?
I think he was short.
I want to say that.
I think they moved him. I would not put him in center.
There's never been any consideration about him playing shortstop, though. Even after, you would have thought the natural move would have been if Miggy was going to get traded to the Dodgers, then you would move Jazz Chisholm to short, and he would become your, he would have been the heir apparent there at shortstop, no? As opposed to playing second base, if you're going to, plug in Arias at second base this year, which they did, and it's been very successful.
Right, yeah.
And I believe Arias to be a very competent fielder, at least from what I've seen. Seems to have a pretty good acumen for playing the field. I don't recall him making any hideous mistakes, and every now and then you'll see him make a decent play. No, I'm not sure that he's the greatest fielding second baseman of all time. Didn't he play first base last year for the Twins, Luis Arias?
I wouldn't.
This is how much we know about this, and we bring it up because we're trying to figure it out. What the fuck did they do with Jazz Chisholm? That's the question. How about that? I mean, you never thought you would be there. You think you would be overwhelmingly enthusiastic about welcoming back a guy that was going to be a catalyst for any success that you might have in the second half of the season. That much of it would be predicated on the play and upon the play of Jazz Chisholm, who was so highly touted. I will never forget that. I mean, Mike Hill had me just, I was, like I had a religious revival listening to him sing the praises. He was Dennis Hopper talking about Colonel Kurtz. The man is the man is the man. And you've never heard such reverence, have you, for Jazz Chisholm? And unfortunately, this hasn't panned out. Sixto Sanchez. I won't forget that conversation. I remember we were sitting out there, and I was trying to convince you that Jose Urania was going to win the Cy Young Award.
Yes, you loved Urania.
Do you just become delusional if you're a Marlin fan? I mean, like completely delusional about things, or what we witnessing is what we are witnessing right now, about to cement itself in reality over the next week. Very curious. But like I said, Louis, this even adds to the curiosity point. Do they go ahead and bat like Jazz Chisholm leadoff and have him playing center field tonight?
I would not mess with Arise. I'll tell you that right now. And they've been leading Arise off. I would make him second or third because their 2, 3, 4 sucks. So I would make him second or third. I don't give a shit about Adela Cruz. Move him wherever you have to move him.
He's been solid though.
He's been fine.
A solid player, yes. I have no problem with him.
I'm not worried about moving him. Like I would presume he'd be able to do whatever he's doing wherever you put him. I just wouldn't touch Arise. Like whatever mode he's in, you stay away from him. I wouldn't move him from his position. I wouldn't move him from his place in the lineup. I would just leave him the hell alone, stay out of his fucking way. The rest of the lineup, they're all guys that I don't care about, and they're fine, and they're playing above their head, but I don't care if you have to move them. I mean, it is what it is with those guys. I don't know where you put him in the field. I don't know, because he was an abomination at center, and it totally ruined. One thing you could count on him, when he was out there, he'd get on base. He would hit a few home runs. He would score. He just wouldn't stay healthy. When he was in center, it screwed with everything. He was not the same guy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if anybody's covering this on a local basis here, but does anybody have any idea if this guy's going to play and where? I've seen nothing on that. I didn't even know he was eligible to come back. I actually had forgotten about him.
They hadn't talked about
I didn't even remember he was on the roster, to tell you the truth, until Jim Sarnia alerted us to that earlier this morning, which and then it becomes an interesting question, because you do have a team that's playing well, or well enough right now to be in a position where, if the season ended today, we're in a wild card, Lubie, with enough pitching to make you think that there's this guy Nardi is pretty nasty. Have you seen him out of the bullpen? Left-hander, looks kind of scruffy, Nardi, and he's been nasty. He has had some good stuff of late, so it goes deeper than your man AJ Puck, which you want to say puke, don't you? I mean, when you see the name P-U-K, it's like there should be an E on the end of the thing, but he's been very good, solid. He had that one rocky outing where they lost to the Pirates, and other than that, guy's been coming in there and doing his job. So we'll see. That'll be interesting. For a rare time, though, I'm actually interested. What time do they throw the first pitch tonight? Boston, they don't do that 6:40 stuff in Boston, do they? Be impossible to get to the ballpark by then.
7:10.
I mean, I'm actually looking forward to watching at least the beginning of a Marlin game tonight, Lubie. You'll be on at your trivia thing, so you'll have that on the screen, and that'll be great. All right, a lot of fun being with you all morning long. We had a good time. That was fantastic. That Gator Crush job last night was absolutely delightful. I don't know that I've had a better time watching a blowout, except for, that was right up there for me with Jimmy running up to score on Jerry Faust. While Parsegian was screaming in the booth there, and his hair was standing up like Don King, and he's yelling, "Can you believe this, Brent?" And Brent had the over, so he's loving it. Going, "Yeah, throw another bomb, Jimmy. Rub their nose in it." And it was the same kind of feeling. I haven't had that kind of euphoria here for a long, long time. Watching the Gators get crushed like a grape in the College Baseball World Series. Going to miss that College Baseball World Series action. That was a lot of fun. I thought it was a very high level of play. Lubie, you didn't watch any of this, huh? I really was impressed with the level of play of college baseball. Now, I don't know that all teams are anywhere near this caliber, but it seemed to me like, a lot of these clubs that made the College Baseball World Series, they didn't exactly like skate in there, did they? I mean, some of them struggle in regionals and super regionals. Weren't many of them facing elimination as they were going and trying to make their way to Omaha, Nebraska. So high level of play, I thought, all the way around. And it was a great event. If you ever get a chance, is this stupid to say? Because nobody's ever going to do it. If you're just a fan of baseball, I think anybody would enjoy going to the College Baseball World Series.
No, it seems like
You
a
would
great
be surprised at what kind of a sort of good vibe event that it is. And you're eating steak every night, so you'll be ready for Mike Mayo's lunchbox at 12 o'clock today, which we will be too. So we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Tomorrow, Tony Segredo goes all school with us, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. And my good friend Brad Jacobs, CEO now of Top Rank Boxing, who just was inducted in the Boxing Hall of Fame, will be joining us. And I'm not sure if Top Rank still has Terrence Crawford. I want to say they parted ways in a bitter breakup as a promotional entity and boxer. And so I don't know what kind of hand they have in the Spence Crawford fight, but Brad will certainly have some opinions on that and what it was like to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, Canastota, New York. And supposedly, if you're a boxing fan, well worth the trip there, much like baseball fans say, hey, you've got to go and, see the Hall of Fame. Many boxing fans feel the same way about the Hall of Fame in Canastota. All right. Plus, is that not near Syracuse? Yes, it must be. Not Syracuse, but I mean Saratoga. Right? Canastota, New York. What do you think? Proximity to Saratoga?
What's PBC?
Premier Boxing Champions.
Okay. It says that Terrence Crawford is signed with PBC.
Oh, okay. So he did leave Top Rank. Bitter dispute there. They hated each other at the end. All right. We'll see you next time as we leave you on that. 12 o'clock today, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Should be fun. And it is
The time.
9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.